So you said recently that you thought that you, as an outspoken critic, could be a target yourself. Some people think that sounds overdramatic, but I'm right there with you. I think that he is so vindictive that he will go after, however he has to, through the IRS maybe, or even, you know, through sponsors to get us off the air maybe, or you. How seriously should we be taking that?
Well, so I was asked, am I worried about me? And my answer was, I'm worried about all of us. I'm no more worried about me than I am worried about everybody in the country. I think it's bad to have somebody saying, give me as much power as you can in this country so I can use it to go after other Americans. So I can use it to go after these subhuman internal enemies and I'll destroy them. Like, that's just not a good system for anybody. And I don't think anybody's safe if that's the sort of basis on which he wants to get more power.
Well, remember when Nixon had an enemies list? That was a proud moment for a lot of people if they were on the enemies list. Maybe we need to turn it around like that.
Well, I think that if he decides that he's going to go after you or me or anybody who's well known, you know, we have resources, we'll likely be fine. But I think there's a pattern where he picks out individual people and effectively terrorizes them. I mean, there's Stormy Daniels wearing a bulletproof vest to get into the courthouse, right?
Once you have political violence, you have fascism following that. So
Oh, of course you do, okay? Rather than, gosh, guys, you know, your ratings just aren't what they were. I mean, take a look at Rachel's, for goodness sakes. The woman makes, what, a reported $25 million a year to show up on air once a week. Wow, good work if you can get it, I'd say. That's not going to happen anymore. Comcast is like, we can't wait to be separate from this company. We can't wait to no longer have to deal with Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. And the new investors, the people that own shares, although Brian Roberts, I think, is still going to own a good portion of this company. It's very tax efficient, by the way they're doing this spinoff. If you look at what's really going to happen, there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure because there's no one there to support now these crazy high salaries unless they're bringing in the revenue. And I don't think they're going to bring in the revenue, just judging by the ratings we have seen. I mean, they're not bringing in the revenue either over at The View, where they're also really challenged with ratings. The ratings are not what they were just a year ago. And even if they were, like, absolutely fantastic, apparently Colbert had pretty decent ratings, but they got rid of him pretty fast. And why did they get rid of him? He was losing $30–40 million a year. I realize some people out there actually think it's perfectly fine in the name of the brand to be losing $30–40 million a year. But no, that's not actually fine in the real world. And what's happening now with this spinoff is that there's going to be some real world mentality creeping into the likes of MSNBC where they're actually going to have to show something in order to earn that $25 million a year salary that she is so reported to earn. I want to show you here Brendan Carr's comments. He was asked directly on Fox, well, what about The View? The View worries they're going to be taken off the air. Will they be? Watch what he says.
Let's go to The View, shall we? Joy Behar yesterday said this.
First of all, who tried to overthrow the government on January 6th?
Wait, let me think. Who
was that again? That was not Obama. The thing about him is that he's so jealous of Obama because Obama is everything that he is not. Trim. Smart. Handsome.
Happily
married, and can sing Al Green's song, Let's Stay Together, better than Al Green. And Trump cannot stand it. It's driving him crazy. Jealousy is not green is not a good color.
That from yesterday. Who knows what happens today? The White House chose to respond to that. And this is what they said. Joy Behar is an irrelevant loser suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. It's no surprise that The View's ratings hit an all-time low last year. She should self-reflect on her own jealousy of President Trump's historic popularity before her show is the next to be pulled off air, end quote. Is The View now in the crosshairs of this administration?
Look, it's entirely possible that there's issues over there. I mean, again, stepping back, this broader dynamic, once President Trump has exposed these media gatekeepers and smash this facade, there's a lot of consequences. I think the consequences of that aren't quite finished. And look, The View's got a lot of challenges there. It wasn't that long ago, I think one episode, one show alone, they had to stop, interrupt the show, and read 4 separate legal notices to try to avoid legal liability. So I'm not surprised to hear people saying that their ratings are struggling.
Well, sir, where does this end then?
Look, I think we need a course correction. You know, it's time for America's legacy broadcasters to return to promoting the public interest. And just recently, Skydance, which is looking to acquire CBS, wrote letters to the FCC committing to serious change, to trying to root out bias, to putting in place an ombudsman that would address these issues, to returning to unbiased, trustworthy journalism. That's where we have to go. And I think we're getting some wins along the way. It's trust but verify at the end of the day. We're not where we need to go. But I think this legacy media really needs to reorient, or they're going to continue to run into issues like Colbert, where it just doesn't make economic sense to run a partisan circus.
Right. Partisan circus is right. So it didn't make sense to continue on with Colbert. I think I showed you guys this in my shorts feed. Colbert had some kind of protest that was organized outside Paramount CBS the other day to protest the fact that he had been taken off the air, and you had like 8 people show up. I mean, he really started to lose relevance. He didn't have much presence online. The company was losing money on his particular show. Maybe he should have taken a salary cut. And so as a result, it finds itself off the air, which is what happens in normal business. And so in the case of MSNBC, they are thrilled over at NBC, at Comcast, to be able to get rid of this. And now think about what that took, if you would. Because theoretically, yes, you got MSNBC, which is in the news business. Again, I said theoretically. So theoretically, in the news business, I mean, it's certainly in the propaganda business, if you would, and they should be able to cost synergize with NBC, because NBC is out there gathering the news, therefore all the video feeds, et cetera, that can come into MSNBC. That should theoretically make sense, right? Along with CNBC as well. You should be able to leverage all of these together and therefore make money. But in this environment, you have Comcast willing to say bye-bye to Rachel and to Morning Joe. And they already quite literally said goodbye. No more. We're done. To one Joy Reid. Good call. Good move. No wonder she was so desperate for Donald Trump to lose. Maybe she knew the handwriting was on the wall. I think they all knew the handwriting was on the wall. But in this particular case, you're just talking about pure economics as well. In other words, these shows aren't relating with viewers. People aren't tuning in to watch them. People are coming over here to, what do you know, YouTube, Trish Regan show. Please make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff, because they're looking for something. It is my firm belief that is more authentic, that is more real, that is transparent, and is not what those big legacy media companies are offering. And so things have changed. You look at the ratings, for example, over at MSNBC, and they're pretty bad. In fact, Jen Psaki's ratings, I think they're just as bad, if not worse, than what Rachel Maddow was getting just a year ago. I actually know that. They are actually worse. If you could imagine it could get any worse, it has gotten worse. And this is, when Rachel thought, well, it'll just be great if we have Jen Psaki coming in to replace, what was her name? The woman that was there, was it Alex Wagner? I think that was a big deal when they decided she was going to take over Jen Psaki, that is, the 4 nights a week that Rachel wasn't in the slot. And Jen Psaki can't get any kind of traction whatsoever. That doesn't surprise me. If I'm going to be generous, I will say this about Rachel Maddow. She does come across as a slightly more authentic person. I mean, not really, but, she's better than Peppermint Patty, right? Like Peppermint Patty, who used to be up there for Biden, was just lying through her teeth nonstop, all day, 24/7. That is the job. You're the press person and you're just going to lie for Biden all day long. And so at least Rachel had that kind of distance between herself and Jen Psaki. One of the things that was so interesting to me was the quote that she gave to Us Weekly, in which Rachel Maddow talked about how Jen Psaki was going to be so great at this job, right? She was going to be so great at this job because she was so plugged in, and that somehow was going to make her bigger and better than, Rachel. Good luck with that one, right? I mean, we kind of knew that was never really going to be able to come to fruition. But I'll tell you, she's something else. She's an interesting lady, and I think she's very good at taking you down a rabbit hole of nonsense with great conspiracy theories. I mean, perhaps her most signature one, if you would be Russia, Russia, Russia. We saw that, and as a result, she's struggling big time.